what's up, gun nuts? It's Ferrari Steve with RealGunReviews.com, and this is a side-by-side comparison of the SIG Sauer P226 Legion versus the P229 Legion. So let's eject the magazines, visually and manually inspect to make sure that both guns are clear before we start tinkering with them. All right. So why would you want one of these over the other? Or in my case, why would you want both? I mean, they're not cheap. A lot's been made of how spendy the Legion line is and whether or not it's worth it, and I'm going to leave that discussion for another day. But really, these guns have a lot more in common than they do differences. And so let's talk about what they have in common. Obviously, they're both part of the Legion series, and so they have the Legion unique aspects, right? That special Legion gray PVD coating. They've got the gray guns trigger. They've got the P224 low-profile controls. And yes, these are just off a P224. They're not custom for the Legion. They do, however, have custom-made grips from Hogue that are very similar to Hogue's G10 checkered grips. And they are G10 and they are checkered. But they have the medallion. But they also have this special pad here and this larger pad here to help you get a little more grip, or maybe just to make it different, who knows. They've got the same rail, they've got the same X-ray sights. They both have beaver tails, although the frame of the 229 being smaller, the beaver tail is not quite as pronounced as that on the 226. The grips on the 229 hang down a little bit. You know, there's a little bit of lip there, whereas they sit more flush on the 226. And that's just so the 229 can kind of squeeze a 15-round magazine in there. So let's talk about the magazines. Both of these are 9mm. They're both available in 9 and 357 SIG and 40 cal. The 226 is also available in a 9mm single action only. The 229 is not available in an SAO model, much to the chagrin. Let's spit that out. Of 229 lovers, because that would be kind of cool. However, the SAO is considered more of a target pistol, although lots of people carry them in self-defense usage scenarios. But since the SAO is generally seen by the broader market, I think, as a more target pistol, that's probably why SIG didn't offer one on the 229. But who knows? You yell loud enough, maybe they'll make us one. Anyway, we were talking about magazines. Right, they both come with 15 rounders, but you can fit the 18 or 20 rounders in a 226, and they will sit flush. I mean, technically, you could shove them in a 229 and they'll work, but they'll dangle and rattle. So magazine capacity, or at least potential capacity, not the ones that come with it. They both come with 15 rounders, or 12 if you get a 357 SIG or 40 cal. They come with 12-round magazines. But the 9mm come with 15s, but you can go bigger in it. They both come with 3 magazines. So again, very, very similar. As far as their differences, well, it's about capacity and size. So let's overlay them, and we'll see. Let me line these up. So I'm going to line up the triggers. And if I line up the triggers, and I'll try to get this right over the camera. If I line up the triggers, actually I'll move it down here so you can see there. So the 229 comes to not even quite where the front sight starts on the 226. So you've got, it looks like not quite an inch. And I don't remember what the specs are offhand, but you know, you're not going to buy the gun on specs like, oh, it's 5 inches or 6 inches. That's, no, you're going to go based on feel. And as far as height goes, right, if we line up those trigger guards, it's a little shorter. It sits, you know, it's shorter this way and shorter this way. And so it makes it similar to hold if your hands aren't falling off here. My hands come really close to the bottom. So it feels very similar to me holding it versus the 226, and I've got a lot of range time on this 226, whereas this 229 is new to me, but it still feels very familiar. I can feel that it's lighter, but not massively so. I mean, all day long, maybe I'll tell a difference on my hip, but it feels very natural and very familiar to me because I'm very familiar with the 226. 226 has this little flare at the bottom of the foregrip here. That doesn't exist on the 229, however, the magazine has this little flare, and so again, that feels very familiar to me because my pinky is hitting right where my pinky would hit on that flare. And if you have different size hands than me, it's not going to affect you the same way. But for me, again, holding it, it feels very, very similar. The other thing that's very similar is the trigger feel. Now, I haven't tested it yet, but I would guess, this being newer, is going to have a slightly heavier trigger pull, which will lighten up a bit. over time, but I've got a lot of rounds downrange with this, and it's really worked in nicely. I'm sure it still has a ways to go, but I would imagine this is a lighter trigger pull. So let's dry fire it and see. Okay, very familiar trigger pull to me. And I know we've already checked, but you can never check too many times. Very similar feel. Yeah, it feels like it might be slightly heavier, but not much. If it is, well, let's get the gauge out and see. If it is heavier, it's not going to be by much. I'm maybe half a pound, but not massive. It's not going to be a pound or a pound and a half heavier. Excuse me. I was doing some drywall earlier today and sucked some into my lungs. Perfect for right before we go on camera. Anyway, let's do some quick trigger pull tests on the gauge. And again, a gauge only tells you trigger weight, not the quality. This is only a quantitative measure, not a qualitative measure, and they are important. But I'm going to try to be as consistent as I can and line this up so it's running parallel to the slide. And I'll try to pull with similar speed. So 10 pounds, 13 ounces. Let's do a couple. Let's just kind of get an average. 10 pounds, 8 ounces. Let's do one more. 10 pounds, 14 ounces. Okay, so the mid to high 10s. 10 pounds, 15 ounces, so almost 11 pounds. That said over. I must have jerked it. I'm going to hold it. Oh, I did it again. Okay, I'm doing something wrong. Let's line this up here. 11 pounds, 7 ounces. 11 pounds, 2 ounces. Okay, so I wasn't far off. It's not quite half a pound on average. Slightly heavier, but again, I don't think that has anything to do with the design of the pistol because the internals are identical. They both have the same trigger. They both have this. Well, you know, let's open them up and see. Let's take the slides off both of them, and we'll do a little more comparison, and we'll see kind of what the differences are. Okay, so here are the slides. Let's take both of the guide rods out, and we'll take both barrels out. So let's look at everything kind of side by side. So the barrels, and you can see the difference in the barrel length, although you know, how they sit in the gun, they're going to be like right about there. Okay, so again, not, oops, I'm off camera, sorry. Not massive, but you know, different enough. The guide rods are not going to be the same length either. The P229 guide rod is going to be a little bit shorter. The P226 guide rod is the same for the 226 and the 227 and the 220, whereas the P229 and I believe the 228 use the same guide rod, and maybe some of the new variants as well. You'll notice they're both that solid guide rod, not the hollow steel or plastic one that are coming on some of the newer SIGs, but the solid, slightly heavier one. And then as far as the slides themselves, let's put these side by side, line them up at the back. There we go. So you can get a real good sense for the difference in length of the slides. But when we line these up, you'll notice on all the action end, things look very similar. All the components are very similar because from here back, the guns are identical. You've got the same trigger, you got the same controls, you got the same hammer, you got the same sear, you got the same sear spring, you got the same SRT kit sear, by the way, and SRT kit safety lever in there. Same trigger bar, same magazine release. Very, very similar guns in that they share a lot of internal components. I'm getting goo on my hands here. And because they share a lot of internal components, again, you could expect they're going to feel similar. And oh no, I'm in trouble. How am I going to get them all back together? Here we go. Let's put the barrel in first, why don't we? And we'll put the barrel back in our 226, maybe. Which one of you is bigger? See, it's harder to tell with just the frame, but you know, we've got a little more. See, the frames themselves are pretty close to the same length. Again, the 229 one is shorter. You got this little cut in here that doesn't exist on the 226, just as it approaches the muzzle here. But otherwise, again, very, very, very similar. Can we fit one slide on the other? I don't know if I want to try. I want to get something locked up and get caught and look stupid on camera. All right, so this is the... Now I'm getting confused. Here we go. There's our 226. And here's our 229. So there we go. More similar than they do different from each other. And probably slightly different reasons you want to own it. Again, size and weight. If you're looking for less size and weight, then the 229 is going to be for you. Recoil, I mean, I haven't shot this one yet, but I totally plan on it very soon. I've shot other 229s, and the recoil is, okay, yeah, you feel a little more than you do the 226, because the 226 is slightly heavier, but it's not massive. The 229 is a great shooter. My other 229 is a stainless steel, so that's really heavy, and that really feels great. But you really can't go wrong. I'm a fan of the Legion series. Not a fanboy, because I realize they're not perfect, and no gun is, but I think they do represent a good value. It's not just marketing hype. For the features you get on the gun, if you've seen my upgrade series where I took a West German 226 and upgraded as close to Legion spec as you could get, you'll notice that the P226 and the 229 Legion actually represent a decent value for the bells and whistles you get, the sights, the grips, the trigger, the SRT kit. Those are, they add up when you start putting them on a gun. So if those are features you want, I strongly suggest you look at the 226 or 229 Legion. And if you're trying to decide which one to get, well, try them both, see how they feel, or maybe, pick both up. I've experienced a lot of people who buy one who like it so much they want to go out and buy another. And if that happens to you, don't feel bad. It happens to the best of us. This is Ferrari Steve. Thanks for watching. Give us a thumbs up if you like what you see. It helps YouTube get these videos in front of more people. Subscribe if you want more videos. Si vis pacem parabellum, and stay safe out there.